dying inside, sick of being alive. Let me in, let me share in your pain. From my lungs through the dark, spoken straight from the heart. Let me give you a reason to stay. If you're out there still lying awake, if you're out there still wondering, would anyone care? Would anyone cry if you finally gave up and turned out the light? The world would be changed if you left it behind. You can't be replaced, no, tonight is the night you take back your life. Take back your life. Take back your life. Take back your life.
And we are live with Jake. It's good to see you. Thank you for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I know you
No,
got so much going on.
no, thank you for having me. I know that I've been a pain to deal with as far as scheduling is concerned, so thanks for being patient with me.
No, it's okay because, like I said, I knew that the last time that we were going to do this, Through Hell just dropped and it started charting, and you were still touring. I mean, you still are, but that was a big issue. So it was a scheduling thing, no big deal. And this time, you just dropped Afterlife,
Yeah, we're
which,
always putting something out.
yeah, I can tell. I mean, I think it's doing pretty well from last time I checked the numbers.
Yeah, that song actually is our all-time. I mean, what's cool about the YouTube Studio app, a lot of the social media apps, is they show you in real time how songs are performing compared to past releases based on how long it's been out. And that song, Afterlife, is our number one YouTube release of all time by a mile.
Wow.
Doing really well so far.
Well, I mean, you kinda led up to it with some pretty awesome music, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you led up t Through Hell was, like, what the thing that came right before it, right? And that one did really well, so people were tuning in from different avenues, I know.
Yeah, I mean, Through Hell was not what we expected it to be. That was actually a song that was written for a record called This Is Your Sign that didn't make the record. And it was a B-side. I didn't think it would ever be released, honestly. And it was a song that I was pitching to a local band called Royal Bliss that we ended up obviously collabing on the song with.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it's kind of a happy accident, and now Sirius XM Octane is playing it, and yeah, things are going really well.
Yeah, definitely. By the way, hello, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. I know we started a little bit early. No, not a big deal. Um, make sure that you go on Twitter and at, SM Octane, I think is what it is, and make sure that you tell them to keep Through Hell in the rotation on Twitter, to kinda push that on there so that they can get more listens and they can get it out to a bigger audience. That would be awesome. If you don't know, then just go to my Twitter and you can retweet mine and then just use the tags in there and tag them as well to try and push this out there. Because that's what we do. We try to support around here the best that we can. I mean, we like our artists, to be honest. I mean, obviously, I've got my wall of fame back here, including.
I love it. I love it. Is that Scarecrow right behind you?
Yeah, it is.
That's great. I love it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, these are all signed. Pretty much every single thing up here is autographed. It's a thing with me. Um, but yeah, I know a lot of people are really excited for you to come on here because I really, 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 really love your music, and I love the story behind how you got started, and I love what you stand for. It's a huge deal, and I finally, because I was gonna do it after the last one, like, last month, but I went ahead and did it anyway that day, and I started talking about my story when it comes to, my big thing is mental health when it comes to women, like abuse victims, that specifically the ones that I kinda have a special place in my heart for are the ones that aren't ready to leave yet because they're trapped, they don't know what they're doing, they're scared, they're confused, and so I started talking about that, and I put out some content about that, which I plan to continue with, but your support of people in general, of the mental health community It's amazing. Every single song that you put out is in some way uplifting and encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, and it's really encouraging to hear that, because when we started this project, I remember letting the band know, like, the goal is not to be a rock star. I never got into this because I wanted to, uh, I had this fantasy about, touring stadiums and making a career out of this. Like, it's not about that for me. I really just thought it would be a passion project one time. Our first release, the Caroline EP, I thought that was going to be it. I wanted to put out some songs that talk about mental illness and the stigma around it, and hopefully create a conversation. But I was not in any way, shape, or form anticipating the reaction that we got, and it snowballed from there. But I remember, so many people telling me, you can't make this just about mental illness or mental health. You can't just make it just about that. It's got to be, you got to write about other things. It's got to, and not that, we don't want to be so pigeonholed that every song is exactly the same. But mental illness, mental health, I mean, that's life. I mean, there's so much that that encompasses. But it's just so funny how people wanted us to stay away from that, and thought it might be cringy, or thought it might be something that would make us less cool, and ignoring that advice and just leaning into it, just jumping in with both feet. I think that's what gave us a chance to do this for a living. I think that's what made us successful. So it's really validating to hear that that's what resonates with you.
Well, in all honesty, one of the big things about it for me is that your story in and of itself tells that you come from a real place versus this is, it's going to hit different if I go, the mental health route. Like, you didn't choose that as a promo or a lane that you thought you could do well in. You did it because it's from here. It came from a real place with you. And I think that changes everything. I think that means all the difference, because I'm not going to pretend like some people can't kind of pull one over when it comes to it being coming from a real place, but you can kind of tell when people are sincere, and it hits different when someone has been through it or going through it, and they say something that you can apply to your life, and it can make you kind of tune in and say, okay, well, maybe there's an option, maybe there's something else, maybe there's something encouraging. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'm grateful that whatever I'm doing is helping that sincerity translate and resonate with people. I think um, it's amazing, like, what a great BS radar people have for this kind of stuff. They can kind of sniff it out when something's insincere, or pandering, or try hard. And I think that probably has worked to our advantage. The fact that it's never really been about trying to make this into a career, and it kind of, like, by accident became a career. I'm super grateful it is now. Like, I can't imagine not having this is part of my life. But to be completely honest, I love my job as a therapist. Like, I love music. I love what I do with the band. But there's something just so different about, you see the comments, you see the messages, and they all mean so much. But nothing can compare to sitting in the room with that person across from you and being able to impact them on that level.
Right.
So, it's 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 good that it feels real, because it definitely is. And I think that the second we start steering away from that, and try to focus on being the biggest rock band, or losing ourselves in chasing that ego, or that that sense of pride, I think we'd lose what makes us different and what people are connecting with.
Now, out of curiosity, before you started on this journey when it comes to your music, did you know you had pipes?
No,
Or
no,
did you just one day, like, feeling cute, I'm just gonna try and belt out a song. Oh, wait, that sounds kinda awesome.
no. I mean, I my parents. It's funny, but my parents got me. I had asked for some gaming system for Christmas. I really wanted, and my privilege is showing, but I wanted a PlayStation or something. And I remember getting an acoustic guitar instead. I remember being so disappointed. And now everyone knows what a spoiled brat I am. But it's crazy because that guitar just sat there for like 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I liked music. Like my parents raised us on country. So we always had country and, the radio on when they'd sing in the car, but it wasn't like we were a musical family per se. And so it was interesting because there was just a time in my life where I had some free time and I was like, maybe I'll try this out. I'm going to tinker around with this guitar a little bit. And it just kind of like snowballed from there really quick. And it's funny, I really got into music through some friends of mine growing up who were really into the old 80s, 70s hair metal, the Cinderella, the Bon Jovi, that kind of stuff. And I really wanted to be a guitar player. I kind of fell in love with like, I was so isolated in the country world, and I had some friends show me, open me up to rock music, and the energy of it just like woke something up in me. And I wanted to be the guy playing guitar solos. I had no interest in singing. And but as I got more and more into music and into more modern rock, I wanted to learn chord progressions, and I wanted to figure out how people wrote songs, and that just kind of snowballed. And I never really believed that I had a good voice until we put out music on a mass scale and started seeing the reaction come in from people who had no reason to lie to me. It's hard when you have family being like, oh, you have a nice voice, or, that sounds okay. But like, I never had the confidence to really be like, I'm all in on the singer. I
Right.
always just like hit it with like, oh, I write songs, or I, play guitar. But I think the Caroline EP was really like the moment when I was like, oh, like this, there might be something here. And it's been such a, sorry, I sang last night. We had a show last night, and I'm just hoarse. Um, it's been such a long journey because like it's been such a slow burn where I did not have any formal vocal training. So now all of a sudden we have thousands of people online listening to our music and people wanting to show up and see us play a live show. And I have no idea how to sing live, which is, I mean, recording in a studio is nothing compared to singing live,
Right.
two totally different experiences. And so, for the first 2 or 3 years of the band, I was just doing damage to my voice and blowing it out, and had to get vocal coaches and put in tons and tons of work, thousands of dollars and hundreds and hundreds of hours of work into, fixing bad habits and trying to develop proper technique, things I'm still trying to correct. So the songwriting piece, that part of it is just like fun and therapeutic, and I love it. And like that's what I live for. The singing part is more of the challenge. That takes a lot of discipline and a lot of repetition, and you can't take any days off as a singer. So it's still something I'm struggling with and learning, but I'm trying to be patient with myself as I figure it out.
Well, I think that most people are probably pretty surprised to hear you say that because, I mean, let me put it this way. I know in the past month or so, at least, I put you on at least, what, 3 or 4 reaction channels? Having people that have heard of you, but have never heard your music out of the park hits every single time. Every single time. And so, I mean, in all honesty, it's like they hear your music, they hear your voice, and I mean, they're always commenting on how amazing your voice is and how you make it so much better because I don't think anyone else could do it the same as you do. And I think that it's surprising to hear that you're still working on that because you pretty much nailed it. You nail it like every single time. So it doesn't seem like, you know what I'm saying, when people feel like they have some edges to smooth and stuff. I mean, it's perfectly polished every single time.
I appreciate that. I think the hardest part is, when you go into a studio, you can practice and try different things and make sure you get the best take,
Right.
right? And to have to like get up on a stage and try and recreate that, and like the amount of like cardio that takes and breath control and interacting with the crowd and performing, but also making sure that you're not using all of your breath and making sure that you're using the right muscles and singing from your diaphragm as opposed to from your throat. That's really, really hard. At the beginning of our career, I couldn't even get through like 3 or 4 songs without my voice being completely gone.
Right.
So, I appreciate the kind words. I definitely think that the fans deserve someone who's willing to put in the work so that when they pay to go see a live show, they get to experience, what they love about the songs, but also keeping in perspective, I'm trying to remind myself that they don't expect it to be perfect. Like this band is not about perfection. It's the opposite. It's about showing that we're flawed. And, I try to keep that in mind, that people just want to see something that's real and that's emotional and that's true to the meaning of the song. So I'm trying to balance, putting in the work to make sure that it's to a certain level of quality, because we're not going to lip sync like 90% of bands do these days. We refuse to put on a fake show, but we also understand that we can't expect perfection.
Well, yeah, of course, and I'm sure that your fans understand that too. I'm sure they sing along when you're live.
Yeah, we played last night and we played a new song off a new record that hasn't been released yet, and they were already singing that one just from the TikToks. So it's been really fun to see how excited people are for that.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I do follow, what you're doing and what you're putting out there, and you're definitely touring a lot, and you're definitely going to shows, and you're putting your presence out there, and like it's a big thing to me. I don't care how big or how small you are as an artist, for you to be hustling for yourselves as much as anybody else is going to want. Like, fans do prop a lot of artists up. I'm not saying you specifically, but in general, they do. The fans are everything. And they push sales and they push the live shows and they buy the merch. They do all the things. However, if the band's out there, they're just like, well, I'm going to show up, and then they just are silent, right? They're absolutely silent. And then they show up and then they leave. It's kind of like, But when you see that you're putting out stuff and you're saying, hey guys, and you're going live and you're doing all the things, engaging with your fans, I mean, that makes a big, big difference, especially now, because before, you go down, you get signed on a label, and then you show up where they tell you to show up and all that stuff. Now, in order to succeed, you need to relate to your fans. You need to have that interaction. You have to be accessible, even if they can't talk to you personally. They have to be able to see you and kind of, maybe you see their message in chat. Maybe they this, that, or the other, right?
Yeah, it's hard though, because I've had to learn how to draw really hard boundaries with that. Because there were times early, like when we first started realizing this was going to become a full-time job, where I felt such a responsibility to the fans that I was making myself accessible to an unhealthy extent. And I can't be everybody's personal therapist. I can't be on call for everybody. If I tried to do that, there'd be a lot of really disappointed, hurt people, because I'd be setting up a false expectation, right? Because I'm just one person. And so, I've had to be honest with myself. And as a band, we've had to be honest about, um, we need to create content and ways for people to connect with us, but also make sure we're taking care of ourselves and putting our families first, because that's also what we would expect our fans to do. And what this needs to become is we want to create a community where, our fans can find each other and support each other and talk to each other, because there are a lot of people who listen to our bands that have post-traumatic stress disorder. They can connect. They can, women who have been in abusive relationships and are struggling to leave, or who have left. Like, that dialogue and that connection is so valuable. And so, I think that the goal moving forward is to still connect with our audience and, obviously strengthen that bond and that relationship. But I think that the more that we can encourage people to help each other and connect with each other, that's even more powerful, because then they're not becoming dependent on a system that's just run by us. They are the system. They can go, and we're empowering them to go and be leaders in their communities and help people who are struggling with the similar things that they struggle with. So that's the perspective that we're trying to have right now.
No, I completely get it, because in all honesty, I mean, I am part of a couple communities that are very big on, encouraging the people in them to help each other. And some of the people that are really involved in those communities are like, hey, if you need something, just let me know. I'm here. Like, if anybody needs help, just hit me up. I'm always going to be here. We always do the hashtag never alone. We do all of those things just because we want people to remember that if you ever get in that spot, we're here. We might not be able to there's some things we can't do. We're not licensed. We're not, official or anything. But, if you need an ear and you want to vent, feel free. Because
Right.
sometimes it's just as simple as being heard or getting it out there, because the worst thing you can do is let things fester, is to feel like no one's listening. That's the absolute worst feeling in the entire world, and I know this, because then you get into this moment where you either start projecting to the point where you want everyone to listen, and so then you look at, and this sounds horrible, but you look like, oh well, poor me, and then people tend to not listen anymore, right? Because they're like, okay, well, every time I talk to you, you're complaining. It's one of those things. Or you turn around and you don't say anything to anybody. And so either way, it kind of, you feel trapped. But if you have a nice outlet somewhere that you can consistently have people that you can talk to, that you can trust, that aren't going to be crazy with you, you can get some of those things off your chest and be able to, you know, kind of move forward and handle them a little better. Because a lot of it just kind of sits there and gets worse and worse as it bottles up,
I agree. Yeah, I think connection is the best form of suicide prevention. 1,000,000%.
And Luce, I see what you're saying. He's saying make sure you have resources, links to BetterHelp, suicide hotline. A lot of people reach out, and just responding with something, literally anything helps. And I agree with that. I don't have that in my server at this point, but I know most of the servers I'm in do. And then I'm seeing in the chat as well, there's a couple of people who are really reaching out, saying that your music has really helped them. One of them was Voltage, said he was bumping Afterlife in the car just a little bit ago. He says he's been at that point. He's been close to that point before. So it really resonated with him. And then we have somebody else who says that, they teared up to multiple of your songs. I have other people saying that, there's songs that really hit with them. And I mean, and they're here. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, that's how I feel too, because I don't think that I necessarily have PTSD, but I do have like the music, and those feelings are kind of across the board. No matter what your diagnosis might be, those feelings of loneliness, or those feelings of not being worth it, those feelings of, not being good enough, or, things like that. Those can resonate across multiple levels. It doesn't have to be like a specific diagnosis. It can just be a day-to-day thing. Like today was just a horrible week at work or something, and then all of a sudden you're just in this mind space and you hear the song and you hear the encouragement in it, and it can pop you right out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think sometimes people need a song that's encouraging, excuse me, and lifts them up and empowers them. And sometimes they need something that just helps them feel seen and validated. Like sometimes they need a sad song. Sometimes they need to not be preached to, and to know that somebody else knows how hard it is to be in that spot. I think both are important.
Yeah, because I mean, I have heard one comment that was like, well, I like when it's this type of subject, when it has the uplifting part. And in my head, I kind of thought, for example, Limit, or let's say Through Hell, any of them, especially the one that was at the intro of the song. Does anyone care? Those type of songs, they have an uplifting point to them. But I also think that a full song that is kind of, I don't even know how to articulate it, like not down in the dumps, but like really into those feelings of, self-reflection, don't necessarily need the uplifting part, because it's just resonating with a piece of someone saying, look, I've been there. This is how I feel. And just because you feel that way at the moment doesn't mean that you didn't get uplifted at some point. It's just acknowledging those feelings in the moment.
Yeah, it's like if my wife comes to me and she brings up something she's frustrated with, and I start trying to fix it, and she's like, no, hold on. I just want you to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be validated. I just want to be heard. I do not want you to try and fix my problem. And I think that, I have people ask me every now and then, like I'll have family be like, man, some of these songs are so dark and so sad. Like, what, are you worried? And I'm like, I'd be really worried if we didn't have any empowering songs, because you have to have both. But, again, sometimes people just need to know that they are not the only person that feels that way. And that is what they need. And sometimes they don't need the, hey, get up and keep going song. Sometimes they're not ready to hear that song. But I think that both are important, because, you have to validate people. You have to sit with them in their darkness and make sure that they know that they're worth it and that they're not alone in it. And then at some point you have to say, okay, we can't sit here forever. We have to get up. We have to move. We can't stay paralyzed in this.
Yeah, those are the people that I call, like when I was putting out, my little clip that I did, I clipped part of the podcast I did last month. and I put it out there. For me, it's gotten a lot of views, but it's I'm not ready yet. In whatever capacity, I was specifically talking about people that are like women that are in abusive relationships. Maybe they have children, maybe they don't know anything else. It's been a long time. Maybe they don't have a resource somewhere to go. They're
Right.
con- they're concerned about, or they're codependent or they're dependent and they don't really know what to do. Or they're like, "Oh, maybe I can make it better, maybe this, that, and the other." They make excuses, whatever. That doesn't make they're feeling less valid. It doesn't make it their fault anymore than it was in the beginning, you know? And two, that's the one thing that I try to encourage is that people do need tough love to a point, but there is a point where they're open, they know something's not right, but don't cut them out completely, you know? Keep that door open for, sometimes they're just not ready. Like, I'm the person who's everybody's like, "Oh, well, you need to, you know, don't, stop smoking." Like, I worked at a hospital. Every time I went in there, it's like, "Stop smoking." And I'm like, "Stop telling me this." Because the more you tell me, the more it makes me be like, "Well, I don't have to do what you say." You know? I don't wanna hear it. But then or like, "Stop drinking pop." Well, all of a sudden one day I was like, "You know what? Feeling froggy. I'm gonna stop drinking." And that was like last year in June. Just all of a sudden. But nobody was telling me to, but I remembered what everyone said, and I'd heard what people had said and, the negative things about it. I knew better, but I had to be ready. And I know that's, I'm talking about pop, but, it's the same concept. You have to be ready within yourself. It has to be a choice. You can't have somebody push you into it, and then you can't be invalidated just because you don't listen to someone's advice in their moment, and then that's not good enough, and now they're gonna leave you. Well, then why wouldn't you stay with the devil you know? If the people that are out there are gonna treat you like, "Well, if you don't do what I say, then you're not good enough to need my help," right? It's
Right.
kind of the same concept, and I just encourage people that when someone is going through things to make sure that they validate what they're thinking at the moment, that it doesn't just because they're not ready to snap out of it, doesn't mean that they don't need someone to hear them.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean, what did she say? I'm just gonna put this out here. Our school systems need to improve to help these students that have suffered from mental health. It's sad to see there are plenty of kids that suffer and schools push it off as their attention seekers. In other words, they don't acknowledge it because 'cause they're saying they're just trying to get attention. Um, no, I do understand that. I mean, I just think that I always say that music is a snapshot at the moment in time that it's made. So you could be an artist from 6, 10, 20 years ago, and then what you're doing now is different. Like, some people started their music with different subject matter, different content, and then all of a sudden they've changed. They're like, "Oh, well, look what you used to do. You used to sing about girls and you used to sing about this," right? I'm like, "That's a snapshot into what they were doing then." What they're doing now, like, it's the same as their mental health. Like, where they were then and where they are now might be a totally different splice on their movie, right? It's just a pause and it's just a view into what they're doing right now. Things can always get better. I mean, everybody improves. I just think that I honestly think that putting it into music in a way that actually is really cool and sounds really good, and the band plays amazing, it just makes it easier to listen to and to be able to, like, hear that instead of hearing somebody like me lecture somebody on that, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a different vehicle for it that I think definitely opens doors and makes people more open to it for sure.
How'd you find the band? Like, the people that are in the band, did you guys know each other for a really long time?
I just recruited people on Craigslist. There's a local Utah version of Craigslist, which is called KSL, where you can just post ads and stuff. And I just spent about a year just meeting with probably over 60 to 70 different musicians until I found the right fit.
That's awesome. Was it like one of those, like, right off the bat, you're like, "Ooh, this person might really work out."
No, I mean, I just didn't. I mean, you have to spend time with people. I mean, how much do you really know about somebody until you've known them for a year,
Right.
or more? So I think it took time. I mean, we got really lucky. We've only had one change as far as a band member in our entire careers, which is pretty pretty rare in this industry. And all four of the guys that I work with are like family, and I trust them like family. And we've also just all really had to grow in a lot of different ways personally, and got super lucky. I mean, to find people who, are humble and hardworking and kind and doing it for the right reasons and reliable. I mean, they checked all the boxes that I think somebody would want in bandmates. And so we just got really fortunate.
No, that's awesome because honestly, the it's really hard to trust people, especially most of the interactions that I have now are online. They're through the community, they're through YouTube, they're through Instagram, things like that. Like it's not in person. You can't look them right in their eyes, right? And like get the vibe that when you're with somebody. So I miss out on that part of it. So it's really hard to trust. So I really appreciate the people that I have that have been, with me since the beginning and have stuck by and really showed, that they're here for everything that they say they are and they follow through and all that stuff. And I can't even imagine trying to put a band together where not only you have to rely on, the relationship that you guys develop together for the music, they have to feel the music, they have to believe in it, and they also have to, perform. And that cannot be easy. I am not creative by any means. Like I am the person I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but you tell me, okay, come up with a concept for drawing. I'm like, it's just crickets. There's nothing, write a song. Again, crickets. There's just nothing there, hum a melody that nobody's done before. Like that is not my forte. So it is amazing to me to speak to people that are really creative, that come up with really cool concepts and bring them to fruition in the way like you're doing. It's to me that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's just as therapeutic for me as it is, I think, for the people that are really enjoying it. So I'm just grateful that I get to do it.
And you're still on I mean, are you still actively touring right now?
Yeah, so we leave for tour in 2 days on Monday. We're getting in a van and we're driving to Montreal, and that's our first show. And then we have 18 dates with Smash Into Pieces, a band from Sweden,
I love
and
them.
we're going all over the United States, everywhere from LA to New York City.
Oh, that's awesome. I love Smash Them to Pieces. I actually heard one of their songs like became like my theme song for a good like 3 months. Where it's like the song every time I got online, I had to listen to this song. Um, Canada, I can't imagine. Like right now, it's like 60 degrees and I'm dying. I'm in Texas, so I'm used to like 80, and you get
Mhm.
below like 70 or 60, and I'm like, I'm out for the count. I'm like, I don't want to come out of the house. I can't imagine being in Canada. I have some friends up there, and they're like, oh, well, it's like 30 degrees, eh? I'm like, no.
Well, we're here in Utah, so we're used to the cold. We're used to the snow.
Yeah, I came from up north. I was like born in Ohio. I lived in Kansas City for like a good 19 years of my life. So
So
I'm
you know.
so I do know, and that's why I ran. I came south and I'm like, no, I'm done. But I mean, kudos to anyone that wants to go north. Like people are like snow's so pretty. I'm like, yeah, in pictures, not when you're driving in it. Like I can't imagine getting in a van and driving through the snow. I think of ice road truckers. That's all I think about.
No, yeah, we're not into touring in the winter time. I mean, that's just something that we don't feel good about, so we avoid it for sure.
Well, no, and then you also have your album ICUs coming out.
Yeah, that'll be coming out towards the end of the year. We're going to be releasing singles from it like every 3 weeks between now and then. So just lots and lots of new songs and content. There will probably be a deluxe version with bonus tracks. So just lots and lots of content coming from us soon.
Oh, that's awesome because, I've only known about you guys for like, I'll be honest, probably about a year to a year and a half or so. So I haven't been following longer than that, but in that amount of time, you guys have put out so much good content. You put out so many good songs that, and every time somebody says, "Ooh, let's request Citizen Soldier," everybody's like, "Yeah, yeah, let's do that." Every time I've ever heard your band mentioned, it has been a positive thing. Every single time. I've never heard anything negative, which is shocking. That doesn't happen, especially when not everybody resonates with they say, "Oh, well, that's too rock," or "Oh, that's too, in your feels," right?
Right.
But I've never heard a negative comment, not once.
Well, I'll take it. I mean, we definitely see the negative comments, but
Oh, I'm sure.
I think we're spoiled in the sense that I do think that we have, an overwhelmingly positive group of people supporting us that give us a lot of freedom to experiment with different types of sounds and to not have to do the same kind of, song over and over and over. We have some really soft ballads and we have some really heavy songs. So it's nice to be able to have so much flexibility and still have people love the music so much.
If you had an opportunity to choose between, and this is a really, I know this is going to be a really, you're going to be like, why did you ask me this? I know it's coming. If you had to choose between your being a therapist and doing music, which would you choose if you had to choose?
Therapist.
I had a feeling you'd say that, which is actually pretty awesome because it shows you're exactly who you say you are, right? You know what I mean? Because you say that's the most important thing, and that really matters. I mean, I would have loved to be in some kind of way to help people and help get them through some of the hardest times in their lives, and to have that opportunity and be blessed in order to, you know, have the credentials and the opportunity to do that. I mean, it's got to be amazing. It's got to be really fulfilling.
It is. It's awesome. I mean, therapists don't make great money, so it's definitely helpful to have both careers as far as supporting my family. That's been a huge blessing in my life. But I do think if money were no issue, if that were not part of the equation, I think um, that I would definitely I get more out of just being in front of the person I'm helping. That one-on-one human connection and interaction is really therapeutic for me as well.
Well, it's got to be even more so because you have a lot of people that you're one person. You can't necessarily reach out. And I mean, I tell people this all the time that are smaller artists that are starting to, the ball's rolling. They're starting to snowball. They're starting to get bigger and bigger. And I'm like, they're like, oh, I'm going to respond to every comment. I'm like, you can't. Well, I'm going to keep trying.
Right.
You just can't. And you have to acknowledge and understand that. And you have to admit that. And then at some point, you cannot respond to every single comment on every single video on every single thing you do. It'll take you so much time that then you'll feel guilt. Like there's all the guilt that comes with it. But when you get to sit one on one, you might not be able to respond to these, 1,000 comments, but that one person, you change their whole world. They always say, um, to that one person, you are the world. I don't know what the phrase is. It just slipped my mind just now, but
Right.
to
I get what you're saying. I agree with you. It's been really hard for me. Every now and then we get that comment, and I think looking back with the band and the way we did social media, there are some things I would have done differently. Because we wanted to respond to everybody. We wanted to be that safe place for them. We wanted to not leave a single person alone. But I think that what backfired with some of that is, you can set an unrealistic expectation. And so now everyone thinks that you're going to respond to every message, and everyone
right,
thinks that you're going to have a personal chat with them every day. And it's not possible. Like, I would be divorced and I would not have my family because, you have to prioritize the people who are there in front of you in
right,
life. And so, every now and then we've had those messages of like, oh, so you guys don't care anymore, or you don't this or that. And it's just like, man, like it's so hard because um I have really had to learn how to sit and have empathy for those people, but also recognize that their struggles are not mine to carry, and that I can love them and want what's best for them, but also recognize that I am not responsible for everybody else. Like being able to validate in myself that the effort I'm putting in to put this content into the world and to offer support in the ways that are healthy for me and my family, that's enough. And part of that has been us realizing like we can't keep responding to every single comment. We can't respond to every single DM.
right,
We've had conversations about if we keep responding to DMs, are we creating an expectation that we're always going to, and is that going to hurt people more? It's really hard. It's really hard to know what the right thing to do is. But that's why therapy is so great because it's so structured and professional, and I don't have to feel guilty when I'm not available for a client because I'm not a crisis counselor. I'm not someone that they should call if they're in a crisis situation. That's not my role. So that separation of roles and structure is really comforting for me because we don't have that with the band. It's kind of just the Wild West.
do you have like something like a Discord where your community can like jump in there and just kind of talk to each other?
It's funny that you bring that up. We had to close it down, and it
Mm,
caused a lot of anger with a lot of people because it was a really good connection tool for a lot of people, and they were getting to feel like they were building a relationship with the band. But as things were growing, people were saying, "We want to see you on tour. We want to see you do this." I had my baby girl, and like as this was all growing, I was like, "Sorry, I'm not choosing time on Discord over my daughter.
of
I
course.
will not, I will not do that to my kid, as much as I want to help everybody." And we started having some safety concerns with the Discord, or people were starting to engage in predatory behavior, and in a way that like we did not have the time or the bandwidth to like monitor that as closely as we needed to. And so for liability reasons, we had to shut it down and say, if you guys want to start a fan server, that's totally cool. We'll support it. We'll pop in every now and then, but um, people are still, there's some people who are still really upset about it because we built this thing and got everyone super excited, and then we had to shut it down. But we just could not justify keeping it open at the risk of, people who are in a vulnerable situation.
No, of course. I really do understand that. And it's something that I do that is not just like this podcast and like my community. I have my own Discord server. It's been around for like almost 2 years now. Um, I build Discord servers and I help artists and content creators get theirs started. I kind of step in until they get their mod team in place and things like that, and help kind of train. I'd also do training with mods, to get them, kind of on board of what's the expectation is and what to look for. And one of the main things that we say all the time, at least that I know that I say, is, protect, insert whoever the person is at all costs. The point is that someone can jump into your server, right? If it's your official server,
Right.
jump into your server, take a screenshot of something someone says and say, "Oh, well, look what's going on in their server." So this is what, your music and everything's all about. And then someone goes and says something ridiculous in the server, someone screenshots it, posts it, and then now you have to combat all of that negative flack that you're getting from that. And people don't seem to understand that. And I understand that people are using servers and social media to be their own sounding board for their own opinions and things. And they have to understand when you're in an artist or content creator's space, right? It has to reflect your values and it has to reflect you as a person, as a band. And if it doesn't, it needs to go away. And you have to have mods that know that. And you have to have a community that understands it or that knows that they're going to get nailed if they don't. Because it's your reputation, it's your career. It's not just like, yay, we're having a private message. This is like a public thing that people can go in there and capture and then put on you guys because you co-signed it.
Well, and what's funny is recently at shows I've been just saying like, yeah, we work for you guys. Like, you let us know and I'm trying to get myself to stop saying that because I'm realizing how unhealthy that perspective is for me. Because the boundary that I'm trying to draw is, and I love shows because I get to get in front of real people and hug them and hear like how our music has impacted them and thank them for supporting us. And it doesn't make me any less grateful, but I've had to recognize that we are content creators, and we put our content into the world. We put our art out there. We put our paintings on the wall, right, in the
Mhm.
gallery, and people can walk by and they can stop and engage in it if they want to. If it doesn't benefit them, they can walk on by, and that's it. We create the content, and we want, and like, there it is. Whoever wants it can enjoy it. Whoever doesn't, great. And we don't owe anyone anything beyond that. you know
Absolutely correct.
as far as, I mean, I think we owe, like, putting in the work to put on a good live show, and some of those things to, like, show our gratitude for that support. But as far as, like, feeling like we have to, um like we're responsible for other people's well-being, is definitely not a healthy expectation, and I think it's one that I had on myself early in our career.
Well, yeah, I mean, you seem to be a very empathetic person. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be a therapist if you weren't. And you
Right.
want I mean, that's the problem. A lot of people have a problem. And that's where I said, you're way beyond this level, but I'm saying, when people start to snowball and they start to get bigger, and I keep telling them, I'm like, you've got to understand, you cannot respond to every single person. If you're like, I'm going to respond to every single DM I get ever. Okay.
Right.
You keep that in your mind and you think that that's the way it's going to be. But the thing is that, like, that expectation, I mean, your heart is in it. Your intentions are well intended. But like you set up these expectations that I'm sorry, but people in general can be kind of weird and crazy if they don't like regulate themselves and online especially. So you have the people who are like, "Well, you said you work for me. You said you work for us as the fans, and we've decided we want you to make a rendition of Barbie Girl. Where's that? Like you didn't do what we asked, you know?" And I mean, and it's a little bit extreme, but people do that. They really have this expectation that you're going to personally be able to maintain, do everything they want you to do, put out all the music and the content, take care of your family and your job, and you're going to be able to be their personal bestie, you know, and their personal therapist. And it's an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah, I've even had people, I don't like this song, I didn't like this, or this, this song, I don't like how it makes me feel, or, I like hear things like this, and I'm like, it feels like me walking into McDonald's and saying, I've been eating only Big Macs for the past 3 months and I feel awful. And the response would be, okay, don't eat them, don't buy them, right? It's like it's a bizarre thing, it's like um, I think it's important to recognize that like we have influence and a voice in the world, so use it for good, right? Be smart. But I also think it's like, as consumers, we need to be responsible for our choices and for the content that we consume,
No,
and if
absolutely.
something isn't healthy for us, we need to be self-aware enough to pivot from it or to, enjoy it in moderation. And but yeah, it's I've had to learn, deleting my personal social media was a heaven. It was a godsend. I think um, that has really helped me get a better perspective on that world, and definitely put me in a healthy place.
No, I believe it. I was looking for it too. I was like, I can't find it. And then I was like, you know what? What do you want to bet you didn't have one? Or if you did, it was like super private, which makes sense. It completely makes sense. But yes, I think that people need to really own their own choices, and I think that to me, it never makes sense if someone's like, oh my gosh, I hate your music. Well, then why are you listening to it? Like, stop.
Right, right,
There's,
right.
you could click next, you can click on something else, you can do something different. And if you choose not to, what are you going to do? Like they say, well, you know, oh, you didn't like that? You didn't like that part of the song? Okay, hold on. Let me go re-record it in the studio. Let me re-release all of the music. Let me pull everything off and then I'll fix it to your expectations. It's unrealistic and people unfortunately sometimes don't seem to realize that. And some artists and some content creators take it upon themselves like, "Oh, well they don't like it." You can't go with every comment that's like, "Oh, I don't like this." Like you
Yeah,
put yourself out there and then you're saying, "This is me. This is what I'm here for. This is what I want to put out there." People will like it or they won't.
yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a good way to put it. People just have to kind of own their own choices and experience.
And I mean, I think that what you're putting out there is amazing. And I know that every single person that I've run into, like I said, I've never heard a negative thing. Most people absolutely adore your music. They adore, you know, the concept behind it. They adore the lyrics. They adore the sound. I mean, I've yet to meet somebody who's like, "Oh god, you listen to them." You know? I've never had that happen, and anybody that I put it in front of has been like a resounding, absolutely love it, and I know I love it. It's just nice to be able to have a conversation with somebody and say, "Look, I really love your music, and I love what you stand for." And I think that the choices that you're making, that you're talking about when it comes to your family, make me appreciate you even more because that means the world to me. I mean, in all my profiles and things, I always say real life over online. You know, take care of your family first. You have God, family, and then your money because you got to secure the bag, which means I have to work full time. But
Right.
it is what it is. Um, and then be true to who you are. And always be true to who you are. And if people don't like it, I mean, they can go. I mean, I'm really not nice in person. I'm kind of mean because I'm like, you want to say something, it's okay. I'll just like mute you and then you can like walk on.
Right.
I don't life is too short to have negative to pay attention to the negative and people like to wallow in that instead of realizing that, those people are just they must be bored if they're just stopping to hate on your stuff, you know?
I agree. I agree
But
100%.
no, I mean, I really appreciate it. I mean, I know that you're busy. You had a performance last night and you tour in 2 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm about to head out here and make a Costco run and go stock up for tour and do all that stuff. But if you have any like last questions or last thought, I'd be happy to answer before I have to jump off.
You know, I can't think of anything because honestly, I was so stoked. I was so excited because I love all the people that I bring on. Like, I don't bring anybody on unless there's somebody that I really believe in and I appreciate and that I think is a good person. Your music specifically hits different to me. And I never thought that I would get you to respond, to be honest, because I mean, I have a tiny channel, but it means the world to somebody like me who, I mean, I've had amazing guests. It's ridiculous if you just reach out and say something. If people that will respond, the worst you can get is a no, right? I mean, you might as well
I,
try. But to have you on meant a lot because, like I said, I love your music, and I know that a lot of my friends do as well, and they were really stoked to see you here. And I just know that you always are true to who you are, which is really big. Um, you're true to your faith, you're true to your family, you're true to your message, which not many people can say. And I just wanted to thank you for that, for being exactly who you say you are and putting that out for the world because it needs it.
I really appreciate that. And my time is no more valuable than yours. I really appreciate you having me on and caring and being invested. I think I don't care how big your channel is or isn't. I care that you care. I care that you cared enough to message me, and that's what matters to me. So, thank you for making this happen.
Desiree wants to know about the guitars on the wall.
Yeah, this is my collection of PRS guitars. We're endorsed by PRS, Paul Reed Smith. I have a little bit of an addiction, but this is my most recent edition. It's my McCarty 594. It's in like an alpine white finish with silver pickups.
It's
I really
pretty.
love this one. But yeah, just like I said, I was a big time into guitars before all this, so it's been fun to kind of you know indulge in that every now and then. But I spend so much time writing songs that there's just not much time for my guitar playing has regressed so much, but it's still fun to do.
15th Ben, he's actually going to be on Thursday. He's an amazing guitarist. He does some really cool stuff with like almost I want to say ambient music where
Oh, cool.
he makes his beats and then he just plays like the kind that just make you want to like float down a river like, yes, let's do this. And he's shouting out the guitars, which I thought was funny cuz that's literally who he is his guitar. But
That's awesome.
what was I going to say? I had one more thing, but I can't remember what it is. So yeah, see, this is my collection back here is stuff that I get from people. Things that, are personalized mean a lot to me just because almost every single person that is on this wall I've either had as a guest or I know them personally. I've
Oh,
spoken to them, had conversations with them. And so it just means a lot to me to have that personalized, and to show their art, to show their work and say, look, these are people that I support and that I like, plus it shows that I like music because I do. It's a whole thing.
I
But
love
no,
it.
I'm not going to keep you much longer. I know you've got things to do. Again, thank you so much for being here and for talking with me and, for all of the music you put out. And like I said, being true to who you are and being exactly who you say you are. I know that sounds silly, but it matters when someone says, I am this, I am that, and this is what matters to me. And then you show up and you are exactly who you say. It gives a lot of faith, that you have faith in people again a little bit.
Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
But if that's all, we're going to get out of here, guys. I appreciate you guys coming through. Make sure you check out the links below. They're going to be in the description. Make sure you check out Citizen Soldier. They're Citizen Soldier on basically everywhere you can find them. If you have problems finding them, look in the description or go on any of my social media, and I'm sure there's posts about them somewhere. So just go look for him. That's all I can think of. And by the way, happy Easter to everyone that celebrates Easter. And, enjoy the weekend with your family.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. We're getting out of here, guys. You guys have a good weekend. I will see you next time. Thank you, Jake, again. And you take care.
Okay. Thanks. See you guys.